So why is please and appease so interwoven into our nervous system responses? So to just have a brief overview of our stress response, we know that there's four primary ones: are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. They come on board when we feel like we're in danger and we somehow need to mobilize and activate to try and protect ourselves. And when we can't really protect ourselves, then we drop into freeze and possibly fawning responses. What happens is when there is this unrelenting stress that we can't escape from, that's like part of our daily lives or on a regular basis, and we really have very little control over it, maybe because we were too little and that we were under the care of parents or caregivers. So when we can't escape certain stresses, then what happens is we develop trauma responses. So that sense of like, we try to connect with people first. If that doesn't work, then we move into trying to protect ourselves through the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And if none of those work, then we basically eject. Okay, so it's almost like we abandon ourselves, we abandon our boundaries, our values, and we are basically no longer have that sense of belonging to ourselves. And in a lot of ways, we lose what's called that felt sense of safety within us. So our bodies being so amazing and our nervous systems and our brains being so adaptable, that's exactly what we do. We learn to adapt by moving in the direction of pleasing and appeasing, collapse, submit, or attach, cry for help. Three primary ones. So when we move into please and appease, really what it's telling us is that we've tried connecting, we've tried protecting, and none of it really worked. So we try and work our way back into feeling loved, into feeling safe. And the way that we worked out how to do that was to please and appease, was to show whoever was there to take care of us that we are lovable. And we do this by stepping in, taking on too much responsibility at a young age. Sometimes that responsibility is put on us at a young age. Sometimes it's shamed upon us at a very young age. So the more we do it, the more deeply ingrained it becomes. And then those childhood habits and those childhood survival responses get carried on in through our adulthood. And then it might take a while for us to really see how these evolve into our adult relationships. And it can look like, again, that sense of taking on too much responsibility for stuff that's not yours. You take on responsibility for other people's emotions. Maybe you have a real problem saying no, and then turn around and just give over what you feel deep down inside. May not be the best thing for you to do, but you do it anyway. So there's many, many layers to it. But the primary thing to remember is that peeling back those layers to the truth of knowing of like, where did this arise from? Because please and appease, nobody really complains about a pleaser. The only time anybody really begins to complain about it is if you begin to give advice when it's really not needed, or you try and take control over the situations to try and control the outcome of those situations, where you in some ways diminish somebody else's ability to maybe help themselves, and you take over that. So it's got these many layers to it, and these many ingredients. But the primary thing to start recovering yourself back from this please and appease is to really check in with your physiology, because it is related to a stress response. So stress is physiological. So there'll be a change in your breath, there'll be a change in your heartbeat, there'll be an increase of body tension, You know even how your eyes move, or you stare, or you go into that tunnel vision. There's these moments of like grip or guarding. And when you can begin to really notice how it shows up in your body, then you can begin to track the pattern. And then you can begin to implement very simple tools to help you begin to switch and soothe and relax and calm that nervous response, so you can reclaim your place in this world again, so you can stop feeling that you have to completely give yourself away in service of others. It's been able to literally take your nervous system from the past into the present and be able in any moment to be able to say, that was then, this is now. I am now an adult. I'm no longer that little child. I'm no longer in that situation. And I know how to take care of myself. And the beginnings of that is that inner felt sense of safety, establishing that, which is really a byproduct of nervous system regulation. Because when you have that in place, it's a lot easier to start bringing in these boundaries that are so important. Boundaries give your heart wings. You are worthy of claiming your time, your values, your feelings, your emotions, your dreams. And there can be such a fear related to implementing boundaries because they were so broken in your earlier life. Maybe they were never respected. Maybe you were just never allowed to be any part of you without it being diminished or criticized or in some way left you broken. So how do we bring back in those broken boundaries? Is we start drawing our own line. We start drawing our own line around what it is that we are, that we connect with, and we connect with ourselves. Because until we know ourselves, we can't possibly begin to start separating what is ours from what is theirs, what is mine from what is yours, and start owning what is mine, and you can start owning what is yours. So there's no blurred lines between who's responsible for what. I am me and you are you. My feelings are my feelings. Your feelings are your feelings. They're not my responsibility. I can hear them, I can listen to them, and I can understand them, but I don't make them mine, my responsibility. I hope you found this helpful, a little insight. And whenever you're ready to move forward, to build this felt sense of safety, to really get to know the system behind the scenes of so many of our triggers, of so many of our automatic responses, of our automatic thoughts, of our automatic ways of being. Anything automatic is basically somehow related to your autonomic nervous system. And that system is what brings forth your stress responses. And of course, triggers the trauma responses. And then from there become these patterns of behavior. We're always either moving in the direction of feeling connected and safe, or in the direction of feeling unsafe, threatened. So we become defensive and start putting in those protective measures again. And it's not so black and white. There's always moments throughout the day where we're weaving through it all the time. Well, what's important is that when we weave, that we are actually beginning to weave with it, not react with it. Boundaries really help us with that. Nervous system awareness really helps us with that. And of course, having the skills on board to work with the system behind the scenes. It can stop pulling the strings. It can stop making decisions for you. When you know you want to say no, you say no. You don't collapse and say yes. It takes time, it takes compassion, it takes courage.